When I hit Friday, all I want to do is Netflix and chill. A movie that I just recently watched was Gran Turismo. Now, if you don't know what Gran Turismo is, it's a simulated racing game. And Jan Mardenborough was this teenager who worked in a clothing store and he absolutely loved racing games. He excelled at them. Well, Nissan would sponsor these video game competitions and he would play. So one day, these marketing executives, they're watching just how this competition is going along, how involved these kids are in the game, and they decide what they're going to do is that they're going to create this academy. And this academy would take the skills that these teenagers exhibited playing the simulated game and train them to be real race car drivers. So it would transition them from simulated environments into real environments. So they would get all these kids together, they would all compete. The cream of the crop would go to this Nissan GT Academy. When they got there, they would all compete against each other, and winners would actually get a professional license and they would be entered into a program where they would actually learn how to drive a real race car. In 2011, Jan Mardenborough, he beat out 90,000 other contestants to become a professional race car driver. So as of August 2023, Jan Martinborough, he's still racing. And he even did his own stunts in the movie Gran Turismo. And the movie is based on his real life. And I got to tell you, to have a successful career as a race car driver, that is inspirational. What's more impressive is that this teenager took his skills that he learned inside the simulator. He tested it against real world scenarios. He failed a lot. He had to refine his approach. He kept testing until his skills were ready for a real world application, meaning driving a car. What can health IT learn from this PlayStation Gran Turismo? Jan's transformation really is a real world example of going from theory to reality. And this is much like the process of generating and using synthetic data for our AI models. So you're probably saying, what's synthetic data? I'm going to read this. Synthetic data is artificially generated data that is not derived from real world events, but it's created via algorithms and statistical methods to mimic the properties of actual data. Now, we all know that healthcare data is really complex. It's not a one-to-one relationship. Let me give you an example. Let's take an apple. If I say apple to you, what do you think? You think fruit. Maybe some of you think computer software or hardware. And some others might even just think first grade teacher because you gave your first grade teacher an apple and you really like them. Without the context of what that data is, it's really hard to understand. One of the many challenges that synthetic data sets have is they're not very good off the shelf. They have to be trained. Now, without context, the data is ambiguous, just like the word apple. And you can use your own de identified data or you can use your IP to train these models to produce synthetic data for your own use cases. So, what are some of the benefits of using synthetic data? Some of them are you're going to avoid the privacy and the confidentiality rules because you're not using real patient data. You'll have more robust data sets and they will be more available and accessible to those on your team for testing, for research. You can address bias and diversity. We know that AI has some inherent bias because these models are trained in certain ways. Back in 2014, there was an MIT grad student, and she found that the algorithms that they were training facial recognition software on were biased. How'd you find that out? She would have her friends look into the facial recognition software and it would map their face. And then she was black, would do it, wouldn't recognize her face. And she thought that this was a fluke, right? You're at MIT, you're using this really cool application in the C-cell lab. You can see her step out of the frame, come back in. and there's no recognition of her face. She picks up a mask, a white hockey mask. She puts it on and it recognizes the white face, the features there. Mind blowing. Again, sometimes the data sets that we have, we don't even know have inherent bias built into them. But this is one way that you can address that using these synthetic data sets, because when you can see it, then you can address it. Next, we get ample testing data. It's very hard. If you've ever developed software, you know how hard it is to get good test data, especially if it's something new and it's an innovation. Regulatory compliance. This is one. When you want to test the efficacy and the safety of new drugs or new protocols, you can use the synthetic data to help prove out theories without actually having to use real patient data. So you're probably saying, Teresa, where do I find the synthetic data? I'm going to give you two resources that you can go out and check out. One of them is Cynthia, and it's Synthea. I'm spelling it because if you go to Synthia, you're going to get something completely different. Cynthia, Synthea, is an open source data set that you can use. If you want to know more about Cynthia, HL7 held a synthetic data event last August, and I've also put in a link for that down in the description so that you can actually go out there and see the videos. They're on YouTube. Listen to them while you're walking around. They're very interesting and very enlightening. And if you don't know much about synthetic data, it's worth your time just to pick through the different sections. They are time stamped and time marked for you. In the same way that Jan Mardenborough's journey went from virtual tracks to the asphalt of real world racing, this shows the power of simulation so that you can forge actual skills. Synthetic data represents that leap from theoretical models to practical applications in health IT. Now, it's the bridge from what if to what can be. And just like Jan had that teenager's passion for that racing game, that translated itself into a racing career that was pretty remarkable and against all odds. Health ID can also harness synthetic data to drive innovation, to enhance patient care, and we can do that while we're navigating those really tight turns of privacy, of bias, regulatory compliance. We always get caught up in those. I think the biggest lesson here is that for every simulated race that Jan won, he was collecting data points. And he was collecting data points of experience, like perfecting his turns, his timings. And we can use synthetic data to do the same thing to fine tune our own healthcare algorithms and to create AIs that create real efficiencies and automations for us. Really, in health IT, just like the racetrack, it's not about the data or the driver. It's about the continuous learning and that adaptation because we continually are getting that loop of feedback and improvement. So I'd encourage you to go out, check out Cynthia, check out the HL7 synthetic data event, just poke through some of those videos and think about how you can use synthetic data in your own organizations as you're thinking about AI solutions for the future so that we can continually improve our offerings for our patients and our members. I want to leave you with this. This Friday, when you get ready to go Netflix and chill, turn on Gran Turismo.